Hi everybody, this is a video to introduce you to the Python learning that you should be currently going through in line with the multi-user operating systems class. So first of all, quick explanation of why we're actually including this unit into your learning. So when you guys write your software, develop your applications, when you go on a customer site to install these applications, it won't come as any surprise that it's highly unlikely you're ever going to be installing the software on a Windows server. More often than not, most clients will be using Linux or Unix-based servers because of simply the reliability and obviously their effectiveness as a multi-user operating system. It's therefore important that you can understand the basics, how to get your software onto the system, how to move around the file system, how to copy files, change permissions, etc. So that's what you're going to learn in this class. So where does Python come into it? Well, quite a lot of the time when you are using commands to move around the system, you'll find that it's a repetitive task. Therefore, it makes sense to wrap these commands up in a script, and then you just need to run the script on a periodic basis, or even you can actually schedule the script as a task. So that's where Python comes into things. Also, it's useful for things like if your software is creating any log files or temporary files, you might want to do a nightly clear up of those files, for instance. And again, you can have a Python script that's got the appropriate Linux commands in it in order to complete that task. So let's look at where the Python material is on Moodle. So if we scroll down the multi-user operating system page, you'll see down the bottom there is a Python section. The idea of this is that we're going to be covering Python in class, but not until week 8. Up until that point, I want you guys to work on this as a background task just to get your basic skills of Python. I don't expect it to be too much of a challenge because you guys have already got great coding skills and it's all the same theory as all other programming languages. It's just a case of learning a different and more simpler syntax. So this is really just for you to work at your own pace, and ideally I would like you to have at least attempted some of this stuff and have a good grounding before we come to the class in week 8. In week 8, I will be showing you how to embed the Linux commands in the Python script. So at that point I would assume that you've got a sufficient amount of knowledge of Python. Right, let's have a look at what we've got here. So there's a folder with, at the moment, I've got 3 PowerPoints in there. The introduction is, as the name suggests, it's just kind of giving you an idea of where to get resources from, a wee bit of background to Python. There's no activities associated with this. If you then move on to PowerPoint 2, then you've got your basic syntax activities. So that's introducing obviously variables, input, output, all the core operators, etc. And then Python 3, it gets a bit more advanced where we start to look at if statements and loops and the syntax for those. For each of these, as I said, with the exception of the introduction, each of these has got their own folder with activities in them. So what I would like you guys to do is work through each of the activity sheets. I don't expect you to do every single activity on the activity sheets, but at least have a go with some of them just to make sure that you've understood what you've read in the PowerPoints. And if you are struggling, there are solutions there. Okay, core thing is, where do you get Python from? How do you install it? So in the introduction PowerPoint, you'll see there is instructions for doing this, but I thought it'd be useful to actually demonstrate it in the video. So the introduction PowerPoint will guide you to python.org. If you visit this site, you'll see there is a download section, and most of you assume will be downloading for Windows, so you would just click on this link. If not, then you've got other platforms there as well. Once you click on this link, as usual, it will download an exe, which will appear down the bottom of your screen. Once it has downloaded, then double click on that exe to install it. This installs Python, and it also installs the default IDE for Python, so the default development environment. The default development environment for Python is called idle. So once it's installed, you'll see that you will have idle, if I can spell it, IDLE, you'll have that installed as an application. So you guys will just need to click on this. I've got to run it as administrator because it doesn't work otherwise. So if you just bear with me 2 seconds till I get mine up and running. So this will launch idle. Okay, let's get rid of this just now. When you launch idle, it launches in the at the command prompt. So this is the shell. So basically this is you sitting at the interpreter effectively. So Python is an interpreted language, which you'll know if you've read the PowerPoints. What this means is it takes one instruction at a time, converts it and runs it. Whereas the compiled languages, like we've dealt with so far, like C#, C++, they will take the entire program all at once and convert the whole thing into an executable. So Python behaves slightly differently. In this sense, it's more like Java. Java is also an interpreted language. So this prompt here is effectively you can type individual commands directly at the interpreter and it will run them. So just to give you an example, so let's just do a basic print. So I'm just going to say welcome to Python. And as soon as I hit return, it will process that command. So you can see it's processed it and it's displayed the message to the screen, which is what the command is requesting that it does. If you want to get some input, for instance, and again this is in the activities, so you'll be able to see it. So say I wanted to get my name. So I set up a variable to store the name and I use the input command with the question I want to present to the user. So I'm going to say please enter your name. Okay, so when I hit return, you'll see that it executes the input command, which then prompts me to enter my name. So I'll put my name in and I hit return and it goes back to the prompt. So what will happen in the background though, it will have saved my name inside that variable. So if I want to check what's in the variable, I just need to print it. And you can see my name's there. So typing at the command prompt is good for short commands if you just want to test something out or just run one instruction at a time. However, you guys are going to be writing bigger programs. So programs in Python basically tend to be called scripts. So if you want to put a collection of commands together and put it in a script, then we can actually open an editor instead of doing commands one at a time. So to open the editor, sorry, not file open. If you've already got a program written, then you can do file open and it'll open that program. I don't, so I'm just going to say new file. So now I can type exactly what I just did in the command line if I want. So let's just do the same program. So obviously you should follow good programming practice and comment all your code, but that's all in the activities. So welcome to Python. And then I'm just going to say the name is the input of whatever they enter for their name. Please enter your name. And then finally, I'm going to display the name to the screen. Okay, so that's the 3 lines of code that I did individually at the interpreter, now stored in a script. So before you go any further, you have to save this. It won't let you run it without saving it. So I'm just going to click on save. I'll just leave it in there just now. So I'll just call it temp1 and save. So now I've saved it, I can go to the run menu and I can click on check module or run module. So run module will execute it and it executes it again in the actual interpreter. So you can see it's done the first line, welcome to Python. It's now asked me for my name, and then it's done the last line, which is display the name. So that's the 2 different modes. I'd expect you really only to use this mode if you're testing out individual commands that you're maybe not sure of the syntax. Other than that, if you're putting together a block of code, then you'll be using a file to do that. Okay, so that's the kind of core basics of idle. Just to nip back over to here again. So as I said, please take your time and go through some of these activities. I'm just going to open up. So the introduction doesn't have any activities associated with it. Basic syntax has got a folder. This is the same stuff, sorry, that's behind the scenes here on Moodle. It's just very slow if I try to run it from Moodle, so I'm just showing you from my local machine. This is what the activities look like. So generally speaking, most of the activities have got example programs to start with, which I would expect you to type in. They are screenshots, so you can't copy and paste. So type these in, and then once you've done the example, then you're asked to do a task that's very similar to the example, just to check that you picked up and understood. So have a go at the tasks. So for most of them, I've got about 3 examples and 3 tasks. So you'll see, there we go. So there was example 1, task 1, example 2, task 2. And then I've actually added a task 3 for that one. Following that, there is a series of what I've called independent coding tasks. So these ones are a bit more challenging. For each of the independent coding tasks, I do provide the algorithm so that you can effectively take each line of the algorithm and convert it into the Python syntax, so you know what you're doing. So you can have a wee go at them as well if you want to challenge yourself. But as I said, you don't have to do every single task and individual coding challenge for every activity. It's really just to kind of, if you're happy, understand the PowerPoint, just do a couple just to test that you are picking it up okay, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need to submit them. No, there's nowhere to upload them. The idea is you do them for yourself, and if you are struggling, then by all means you can ask me questions on the forum, or each of these also has got the solutions. If I just expand that. So for example, there's the 2 tasks that were displayed in that, and then there's the actual example tasks, and there's the extension individual. So they're all there. Just be aware, if you do download these, which you can do, that's not a problem, do not double click on them when you download them. If you double click when you download, it'll run it. It won't open the actual code. So let me see if I've got one here that I can show you. Okay, let me just go into solutions. So if I double click in that, you'll see it just runs it. But that's not what you want. I'm assuming you would want to actually see the code itself. So instead of double clicking, if you're looking at the solutions for help, right click and just go to edit with idle and just do it that way. And it'll open it in idle, and then you can run it from there. Okay, so not all of the Python PowerPoints are on here yet. I'm just adding them as I get the material together. So there's still a few things that need to be covered. So probably about another 3 PowerPoints to come, and some activities associated with it. Just off the top of my head, I think roughly that's what we still need to do. But these will be added over the coming weeks, and then you can work your way through them. Any questions, guys, post in the forum, and you can let me know if there's problems with anything. That would be great. Okay, thanks very much for listening.